One of the most interesting teams to look at in the NBA bubble situation is the Sacramento Kings. Currently tied for the 9th seed with the Blazers and Pelicans, everyone seems to be writing them off and giving them almost no chance of even competing in the play-in tournament for the 8th seed. Looking at the Kings season as a whole, there have been a lot of ups, but a lot, and I mean a lot of downs. Currently with a 28-36 record, the Kings have had their fair share of losses, with 8-game loss streaks, 7-game loss streaks, and multiple 6- and 5-game loss streaks on their record. A lot of this has to do with injuries to major pieces of their team. Their star De'Aaron Fox has suffered multiple injuries this season and has missed 19 games, and just a few days ago suffered a sprained ankle in practice. Marvin Bagley, who was expected to make a big leap after a very solid rookie season, has never been able to find his footing. Literally. I mean, I had Bagley on my fantasy team this season, and man did he let me down. He had numerous, and it seemed like endless foot injuries, which I attribute to the poor handling by the Kings training staff, and it's resulted in him playing in just 13 games this season. Richaun Holmes emerged as the biggest beneficiary of Bagley's absence, putting up a solid 13 points and 8 rebounds on very efficient shooting from the field, but in the middle of his breakout year, he suffered a right shoulder injury, and this caused him to miss 25 games. All in all, multiple injuries across the Kings roster has led them to putting up mediocre numbers on the offensive end this season, as well as middle-of-the-pack type numbers on the defensive end. The leader of this team is undeniably De'Aaron Fox, who serves as both the team's leading scorer and playmaker, putting up 20.4 points per game and 6.8 assists per game on the season. He's also becoming a very good perimeter defender as well, using his speed to his advantage and applying great pressure to passing lanes. Fox's ability to push the pace is also vital for the Kings' offensive attack, as it leads to easy points for himself or open looks for his teammates. Buddy Hield is the team's sharpshooter, second leading scorer, and before the break had taken up the role of becoming the team's 6th man, and it seemed like it was working. Hield's stats took almost no hit when coming off the bench, seeing as he was the main scoring option of the second unit and is currently averaging 19.8 points per game to go along with 3.8 3-pointers a night. In fact, he's hitting threes at such a high volume that he's currently second in the NBA in total 3-pointers made and is shooting nearly 40% from deep. Hield has also improved as a distributor throughout the years and is currently averaging a career-high 3.1 assists per game. Harrison Barnes is one of the more underrated parts of the Kings team, as he usually draws the toughest assignment at the forward position each night. While he's not an elite defender, he does do a solid enough job to make his opponents work for their baskets, which is something the Kings need to do more of as a whole. On top of this, he's a good complementary scorer, averaging nearly 15 points a game while shooting around 38% from 3, and is a great finisher on the fast break next to De'Aaron Fox. He's currently not in the bubble, but if the Kings want a shot at the 8th seed, they definitely need his presence on both ends of the court. In my opinion, Bogdan Bogdanovic is the X factor of the Kings in their quest for the 8th seed. When he's hot, the Kings add a whole new layer on the offensive end and look like a completely new team. He takes a lot of pressure off of Fox as another threat that can create his own shot from the outside, play off the ball as a spot-up shooter and cutter, and create for others as well. His move to the starting lineup has proved to be extremely effective for the Kings, as they've had a 13-7 record since replacing Buddy Hield. Bogdan will have a lot on his plate in the bubble, especially if De'Aaron Fox doesn't come back 100% from his ankle sprain come the end of July. At the power forward position is Nemanja Bjelica, who is vital for the Kings' spacing along with Hield, Barnes, and Bogdanovic. He's having a career year so far, averaging 12 points and 6.5 rebounds per game, but the most eye-popping stat is that he's hitting 2 threes a game on an extremely efficient 42.4% from there. Bjelica's presence alone makes it easier for everyone on the court as he draws out his man from the lane and allows for much more room to operate because of how much of a threat he is from the perimeter. He knows his role, knows how to play it, and without him, the Kings' offense would look much worse than it does now. And finally, Richaun Holmes rounds out the team's starting lineup at the center position. Although he's currently under quarantine, Holmes has established himself as one of the most consistent guys on the Kings roster, putting up nearly 14 points and 8 boards a night on extremely efficient shooting. He has a great motor, hustles on every play, and acts as the Kings' defensive anchor down low, responsible for altering a lot of shots. Kings fans love him, and it's easy to see why. He's what Willie Cauley-Stein wishes he could be. Now that we've gone over the main guys on the roster, let's look at the Kings' schedule and how I predict they'll do in the bubble. Starting with the Spurs, I believe that the Kings should take this game relatively easily. During the regular season, they split the series 1-1, however, When the Kings did win, they won by 20 points, and their one loss against the Spurs was a narrow 1-point loss in overtime. And on top of this, the Spurs have lost their main big man in LaMarcus Aldridge, who was one of their main scoring threats, rebounders, and rim protectors. Replacing him will be presumably Jakob Poeltl, who is a good rebounder and rim protector, but far less mobile than the already elderly LaMarcus Aldridge. DeMar DeRozan and DeJounte Murray are the biggest threat to the Kings, however, I think that Fox and Barnes should be able to make life tough for them. The Kings' combination of shooting and speed should be able to overpower the undermanned Spurs. The matchup against the Magic is a very interesting one considering both teams played against each other just once in the regular season, with the Magic coming out on top by just 2 points. The Magic have a very balanced lineup, but the Kings do match up well with them, especially now that Holmes and Bogdanovic are healthy for this matchup. The game will come down to whether or not the Kings can hit their threes, as it's the one significant advantage that they have over the Magic and the assignment of who's stopping Nikola Jokic, one of the best centers in the NBA. I'll give this game to the Kings considering they lost by just 2 points with an extremely depleted lineup. The Kings play the Mavericks for their third game, and honestly, this is an extremely tough matchup for the Kings considering they have to deal with both Luka and Porzingis. The Mavericks have a 2-1 record this season against the Kings, with both teams beating each other by 4 points in the first 2 matchups, and the Mavericks taking the third game by an extremely large margin. The Mavericks are one of the best offensive teams in the league with the 3rd highest points per game and the top offensive rating in the league as well. I don't have confidence that the Kings can truly stop Luka, who is surrounded by shooters such as Kristaps, Seth Curry, and Tim Hardaway Jr. They dropped this matchup. The Kings faced the Pelicans twice in the bubble, and these are the most important games of their 8-game series for both sides. The Pelicans won the only matchup of the season by a mere 2 points the last time these two met up. On paper, this seems like an extremely tough matchup for the Kings, as the Pelicans have 2 great perimeter defenders to match Fox, Buddy, and Bogdanovic in Ball and Holiday, and it clearly showed in their one meeting this season. Fox shot just 5 of 14 from the field that game, while Buddy shot just 7 of 20 from the field. And to make things worse, the Pelicans didn't even have Zion at the time, although this could very much be the case once again, with Zion exiting the bubble. In my opinion, for the Kings to win, their guards will have to step up big time and outplay the duo of Ball and Holiday, while still having to deal with Brandon Ingram as well. While it is possible, the odds are stacked against them, and me seeing them take 2 games, especially if Zion returns to the lineup, is just extremely unlikely. At best, the Kings split the series. Their next matchup is against the Brooklyn Nets, and this should be a walk in the park. I mean, the Nets are basically a hospital team because the Nets are missing Kyrie, KD, Dinwiddie, and DeAndre Jordan, who are 4 major contributors. The Kings have the advantage in nearly all aspects of the game, and they should easily take this matchup. Nothing more needs to be said. But you do gotta remember, this is the Kings, so honestly, anything could happen. The second to last matchup sees the Kings facing the Rockets, who split the season series 1-1. The Kings took the first matchup on a game winner from Nemanja Bjelica, while losing the second matchup 104-113. The Rockets have made a lot of changes since the two have played, rolling out their new small ball lineup with PJ Tucker and Robert Covington down low. I believe that this will cause problems for the Kings, as Bjelica isn't the best perimeter defender, or defender in general, and it draws out the Kings' rim protector in Richaun Holmes. I mean, we saw what this lineup did to the Lakers, so why wouldn't it work on the Kings? Unfortunately, this, along with the star power of Harden and Westbrook, will prove too much to handle. For the last matchup of the 8-game series, the Kings unfortunately faced the Lakers. Their combination of size, defense, shooting, and star power is just too much for the Kings to handle. They have no one who can stop AD or LeBron, and even after losing Avery Bradley and Rajon Rondo, the Lakers still have guys like KCP and Alex Caruso to pick up what they lost on the defensive end. I just can't see the Kings keeping up with the Lakers on the offensive end and on the glass, and unfortunately, they'll end their 8-game series in a loss. Overall, I predict that the Kings will realistically go 4-4, but have the potential to go 5-3 if the Pelicans don't have Zion in the lineup by the time their second matchup rolls around. But even with this, I don't think that it's enough to make the play-in tournament, and the Kings will unfortunately see their drought continue. But with all that being said, let me know in the comments below what you think the Kings will go in the bubble and your predictions for if they'll make the playoffs or not. This is just my opinion, and it's not 100% fact. Don't forget to like the video as well and subscribe with post notifications on, I'd appreciate that very much. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, the Kings haven't made the playoffs since 2006, meaning I was a first grader since the Kings last played in the playoffs.